Welcome to the Virginia Department of Education presentation about the 2019-2020 Adult Student Profile Document, or ASPD. My name is Jeffrey Elmore. I'm the Academic Programming Specialist for the Virginia Adult Learning Resource Center. In this presentation, we will be highlighting features that are new for fiscal year 1920 and addressing rules for completing the form. The ASPD was developed by the State Department of Education to collect information necessary to register people for participation in our adult education and literacy programs. Programs that receive federal adult education funds distributed by the VDOE's Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education are required to use this form. Information that you collect on the ASPD is entered into the State Adult Education Data System via the Secure Sign-On for Web Services, or SSWS. At the end of each program year, our state office aggregates the data and files a report to the United States Department of Education. For the 2019-2020 ASPD, there are 4 changes to page 1 that we need to be aware of. Our first is a formatting change. Required items have always been marked with an asterisk, but now the asterisk is placed in front of the item rather than after it. This should make it easier to recognize required items at a glance. The change in asterisk placement occurs throughout the ASPD. Next, there had been some confusion regarding the correct format for entering dates into the document. Dates must be entered using a 2-digit month followed by a 2-digit day and then a 4-digit year. The convention MM/DD/YYYY will appear at both the registration date and the birth date fields. Third, we have a couple of changes to the current status section. 1. This section has been renamed Employment Barriers. And 2. As indicated by the asterisk, this is now a required section. For students who do not report having any barriers to employment, please choose None of the above apply. For those who do report barriers, please select all of the barriers which they indicate. Our fourth change appears in the section at the bottom of the page. This section has been renamed Local Use Only and now contains 2 required items. The 2 required items are Student Program Type and Primary Funding Type, both of which are marked by asterisks and should be completed by local staff. On this slide, we see an image of the first page of the ASPD. Each of the 4 changes described on the previous slide are numbered and labeled in dark blue. Please take a moment to review the changes. Let's move on to page 2. We have some significant changes to cover here. Beginning with the Student Assessment Information section, we have 3 changes. First, instructions for completing the Student Assessment Information section are now provided above the table itself. All of the columns in this table are required with one exception. Second, a Test Administrator column has been added to the table for you to identify the test administrator for each test administration. Third, the NRS Accommodation section has been removed. If state-approved test-taking accommodations were used by a student, the box in the right-hand column of the State-Approved Assessment Information table should be checked for that particular testing session. If no accommodations were used, that box should be left unchecked. Next, in the Student Post-Secondary Education and Training Enrollment section, the instructions have been updated. To enter information into this section, you need the student's last day of attendance or exit date from your adult education program, and documentation of the student's entry date, program name, and location for the post-secondary education or training program. If you do not have the necessary documentation, then you should not enter information in this section. Finally, the Student Outcome Information section has been renamed Student Outcome Goals, corresponding with the goals attainment outcomes reported on NRS Tables 8 and 9. In the IELCE Program Participants and Family Literacy Program Participants tables, you may now record the dates for both setting goals and meeting those goals. Information provided on these 2 tables will be used to populate NRS Tables 8 and 9. Here we see the second page of the ASPD. The changes we just covered are numbered and labeled in dark blue. Please take a moment to review these changes. Let's move on to page 3 of the ASPD, where we find 4 notable changes. First, a space has been added for recording the student's GED ID. This is not a required item, so if a student does not have a GED ID, there's no need to enter anything. However, because evaluating credential attainment for earning a GED requires matching on the GED ID, programs should enter a GED ID for any student who has taken one or more of the GED subject tests. Second, a start date field was added to both the National External Diploma Program information table and the Adult High School Diploma Program information table. The information from these two fields allows SSWS to identify beginning dates which are necessary to track progress within the diploma programs. Finally, a reminder was added explaining that documentation of attainment of a local high school diploma, or the GAAHSD, requires verifiable evidence to be maintained on the file by your program. As with our first 2 pages, here's an image of the 3rd page of the ASPD. The changes are numbered and labeled in dark blue, with arrows identifying the location of the affected text. Please take a moment to review page 3. Turning to page 4 of the ASPD, we have 3 changes to highlight. The placement section, which was where you could record the students' assigned classes, has been removed and replaced with instructions for completing the attendance table. Shading has been added to the attendance table in alternating rows, making it easier for you to record and track attendance. Finally, a year-to-date row has been added to the bottom of the attendance table. Here, you will be able to keep a running total of hours accumulated by the student. This section of the form is not required, but we recommend that you update it at the close of each month. Here we see page 4 of the ASPD. The 2 arrows indicate the changes to this page. Please take a moment to review this page. To close out our presentation on the 2019-2020 ASPD, we'd like to cover general instructions for completing the form. Number 1. You should be using the 2019-2020 ASPD to document student activity. Please discard all previous versions and do not use them, as some of the information has changed. Number 2. All items designated with an asterisk, regardless of whether the item is completed by the applicant or by program staff, must be completed. Number 3. If a student leaves your program and then re-enrolls after 90 days, creating a new period of participation, or POP, a new ASPD must be created. We recognize the additional clerical work this may create, but currently, creating a new ASPD form is the most accurate way to capture this data. Number 4. Students are not required to furnish a Social Security number. However, programs are encouraged to have students provide their Social Security numbers when they can. Participants eligible to be evaluated for WIOA's employment follow-up are matched via Social Security number. If your records do not include a Social Security number, it may adversely affect your program's performance. Just a reminder that the Release of Student Information section does not fulfill your program's responsibility to notify students of their FERPA rights. The purpose of the section is to obtain consent from the student to allow you, the program, to share his or her information with other workforce agencies to see if the student is eligible for additional services. Sharing the student's information for any other reason or with non-workforce partners in your region is prohibited. If the student doesn't sign this section, then you are not allowed to share his or her information with your workforce partners. To be clear, this section does not describe what the student's FERPA rights are. It's your responsibility to have a procedure for communicating FERPA rights with your students. If you are unsure how to fulfill this responsibility, consult your school division, your community college, or your other executive entity. This entity should be aware of the FERPA notification requirement. If you would like to discuss this further, please contact the state office. Number 6. As mentioned earlier, the Employment Barriers section is now a required data entry item. If an applicant has an employment barrier to disclose, please select all that apply. If an applicant does not have or does not wish to disclose a barrier to employment, please select none of the above apply. And number 7. Customizing or modifying the ASPD is not permitted without first obtaining written approval from the state office. On behalf of the Virginia Department of Education's Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education, I'd like to thank you for viewing this presentation. If you have further questions regarding the 2019-2020 Adult Student Profile document, please contact the state office at the email address or telephone number on this slide.